The dying signal. The signal came through the void like a whisper from the grave, fragmented, frantic, and barely decipherable. SOS. Mayday. Under heavy fire. Coordinates. 94 Delta. Please, anyone. Then silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that hung heavy like the moment before the storm breaks. Commander El Ravas stood on the observation deck of the starship Vanguard, her silhouette sharp against the starlit expanse. Her eyes, cold steel in a face carved by years of war, were locked on the emptiness beyond. She said nothing at first. She didn't need to. Everyone on the bridge had heard it, and they all recognized what that signal meant. Not just another colony skirmish, not another fringe system crying wolf. This one came from Bastion Red, a name buried in black ink and forgotten files. A relic of Earth's last war, where the planet's most dangerous war machine, Titan 01, Goliath, was said to have taken its final steps. Once hailed as the pinnacle of Terran war engineering, Goliath was more than a weapon. It was a myth with armor, a walking fortress 40 meters tall. It had its own gravitational field, its own weather system. It turned tides of battles, ended sieges, crushed cities beneath its feet. But that was almost 80 years ago. Since the collapse, no one had seen the Titan move, the pilot classified. The location erased from official maps. Only hushed stories remained told in bunkers, in training, simulations, in the cautionary warnings of admirals too old to forget. But now someone, some desperate soul, had reawakened Bastion Red. Voss inhaled slowly. We're going. The silence on the bridge fractured. Ma'am, Lieutenant Ray stepped forward, voice steady but laced with fear. That's a suicide mission. If the Centauri found Bastion Red, it's already gone. Even if the Titan's still there, it's been offline for decades. We don't know what's left. She turned to face him, her voice clipped and cold. We don't guess. We find out that signal wasn't automated. Someone's alive out there, and if Goliath is still standing, her voice dropped an octave lower, heavier, like stone grinding against stone. Then it's time the galaxy remembered what humanity used to be. A beat of silence. Then the helm officer nodded. Coordinates locked. The stars stretched, then twisted. The Vanguard jumped. Across the void on the dust-choked world of Bastion, Red Lieutenant Kai Morn bled quietly in the shadows of a crumbling hangar. His squad was gone, torn apart by Centauri assault drones in under 12 minutes. Kai had barely made it, dragging his ruined armor through debris and plasma scars, half dead and wholly forgotten. He didn't even remember pressing the SOS button. Maybe it was reflex. Maybe it was hope. Long dead and twitching, but now as old floodlights flickered overhead, he saw it, towering at the heart of the chamber like a god buried under time and silence. Titan 01 Goliath, covered in dust, armor, her cracked limbs still but standing. Kai stared at it, heart thudding against bruised ribs. Something ancient was watching him. Something that hadn't moved in 80 years was breathing. And far above, cutting through slip space, humanity's last warship was coming home. Memory of the Titan. The hangar groaned with age and memory as Lieutenant Kai Morn stumbled deeper inside, one hand pressed to the gash on his side, the other dragging a shattered rifle. He could barely walk. Blood slicked the floor beneath him, trailing behind like a shadow that refused to die, but he couldn't take his eyes off it. Goliath. It loomed at the center of the hangar, motionless but menacing. 40 meters of obsidian and silver. Its armored plating scorched and pitted from ancient wars. Red warning lights pulsed slowly along its core, faint, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Dust blanketed its limbs like the shroud of a fallen king. Yet it stood, not collapsed, not destroyed, waiting. I must be hallucinating, Kai muttered, staggering to a control panel, bolted into the rusting wall nearby. His fingers trembled as he wiped blood off the interface. The console blinked to life. Ancient Terran code streamed across it in faded green symbols from a war fought before he was born. Suddenly, the floor beneath him shuddered. A low grinding rumble echoed from the Titan's belly as a control pod rusted, groaning descended on thick magnetic cables. It stopped a meter above the ground, suspended like an executioner's axe. A door hissed open. Kai stumbled backward. No. He was no Titan pilot. He hadn't even passed his flight certs. He was a grunt, a survivor, a nobody. He'd never been inside a war machine more complicated than a dropship, and yet the Titan had opened for him. Inside Goliath's frame, a voice low, metallic, ancient, boomed across the hangar. Pilot recognized human compatibility, 78%. Override protocol activated. Kai froze. Hell no, he whispered. Then the hangar exploded in blue fire. Zenturi drones, dozens of them, burst through the outer doors in a screech of plasma and metal blade-armed, multi-limbed horrors that skittered across the walls like mechanical spiders, the same ones that butchered his squad. Kai turned toward the pod. Another voice crackled over his fractured comms, calm-clipped and unmistakably human. "This is Commander Elra Voss of the Vanguard. We're inbound. Hold your position." He looked up at the cockpit, looked back at the incoming drones, looked at the cockpit again. It wasn't bravery, it wasn't logic, it was instinct. Something old, something buried. He climbed. The cockpit swallowed him in steel. It was cold. Not the cold of space or metal, but the cold of something ancient and half alive, like bones under frost. The hatch sealed with a thud. Lights flickered. The HUD came alive, bathing his face in green. Neural sync initializing pilot heart rate. Elevated cortisol spike detected. Override accepted. Kai barely had time to scream before the Titan took him. Information poured into his skull like a fire hose targeting matrices. Atmospheric data weapons schematics. Gravity, compensation, threat, analysis, subsystem, loadouts. His mind split, shattered, reshaped. It felt like the machine was rewriting him, carving his identity into a tool. Outside, the drones hesitated. They scanned the Titan, recognized it stopped. They were afraid. Goliath's right arm moved. Steel groaned. A railgun unfolded from its forearm, massive ancient humming with rage. Kai didn't think, didn't aim. He let the Titan move, and it did. The first shot fired. It split the air like thunder. 3 drones vanished in a blossom of plasma implosions. The hangar lit up blue. Goliath stepped forward. The ground cracked beneath its weight. Every movement was violence given form. A blade deployed from its left arm. It vibrated at a frequency too high to hear. The Titan swung, drones shattered. Kai's blood sang in his ears. He wasn't piloting the Titan. He was merging with it. He was no longer just Kai Morin. He was vengeance. He was wrath forged in steel. "Commander," he gasped into the comms. "This is Morin. I'm inside it." There was silence. Then came Voss's voice, low and sharp. "You're not trained for that, soldier." "I know," but it didn't matter because the Titan had chosen. And it was awake. Neural storm. Pain was no longer a concept. It was a presence living inside Kai's skull, wrapped around every nerve like barbed wire. As the cockpit sealed and the neural sync deepened, he felt himself unravel. Neural synchronization, 63%, 89%. Each percentage ticked up like the tolling of a funeral bell. His vision blurred, flickered, then focused again, but not as Kai. Not only, he felt it, the will of Goliath. Cold, immense, patient like stone, but pulsing with something deeper. Rage that had waited in silence for 80 years. The HUD flashed again. Override complete, pilot kernel fusion. Stabilized combat mode active. Outside, the Zenturi drones advanced. Blades whirred, plasma cannons rotated into position. Goliath's sensors tracked them all with predatory precision. The Titan's AI didn't speak in words. It spoke in motion and purpose, and Kai didn't resist. The Titan raised its arm. A second railgun clicked into position with a heavy clunk. Targeting reticles bloomed across Kai's vision like blood splatters. He didn't need to think about aiming, the Titan knew. He fired. The rail round detonated in a flash of green, ripping through a trio of drones midair, shredding them into sparking shrapnel. Another shot, another kill. The Titan moved like it had never slept. Kai's thoughts were a tangle of training drills and battlefield reflexes, but something deeper took over now. Every movement he made felt guided not by AI, but by memory, not his memory. Somehow Goliath remembered how to fight. "You're not fighting alone," came the AI's voice. It was no longer just machine. There was tone, there was emotion. "You are within the archive accessing Terran War Colonel." The name sent chills through him. Terran War Colonel, the myth. A combat AI seated with centuries of warfare. The minds of Earth's greatest tacticians digitized into a combat oracle. Goliath didn't just have systems, it had souls. The floor shook as Goliath stepped forward. The Titan stomped into the next row of drones, blade arm whirling. One sweep and 6 were cleaved clean through. Another raised a plasma cannon, but Goliath's arm snapped up, absorbing the shot on a reinforced shield plate. Sparks flew, smoke hissed. The Titan moved through it like a god through fog. Plasma strike absorbed, redirecting kinetic force, targeting Walker class. At the far end of the hangar, a Zenturi heavy walker tore through the walls, a bipedal machine bristling with cannons and missile pods. It fired immediately. The blast hit Goliath square in the chest. The cockpit jolted. Kai slammed back into the harness. Pain flared through his chest, but he gritted his teeth and pushed forward, slamming his palm on the control panel, activating jump servos. With a roar, Goliath leapt. The weight of 40 tons crashed down on the walker like judgment itself. The machine crumpled underfoot. Missiles misfired and detonated inside its frame. The explosion lit up the hangar with fire and wreckage. Kai felt everything. Not just the impact, but the satisfaction, the fulfillment of purpose long denied. Voss's voice crackled again. We're 10 clicks out. Visual on Bastion read, "Who the hell activated the Titan?" Kai's voice was hoarse. "Lieutenant Morin, I'm inside it." Another pause, then a whisper stars above. But the battle wasn't over. New signals pinged the radar. More Zenturi dropships, heavy artillery. They were throwing everything at Bastion red. Commander, came the AI. "We must hold. Recommend full engagement protocol." "Do it!" Kai growled. Systems bloomed open. Ports hissed. Shoulder-mounted missile racks clicked into place. Targeting sensors locked onto 8 airborne Zenturi fighters sweeping in overhead. Missile lockfire. Goliath launched all 8 at once, spiraling arcs of fire. The sky ignited with fireballs as the Shrike fighters exploded one by one, falling like burning angels across the dunes. And still they came. Dozens of drones swarmed. Walkers deployed a full invasion force. But Kai wasn't afraid. He felt it now. The Titan didn't fear death. Enemy force projection. 200+ combat units. Mission status survive. Kai cracked his neck and grinned. Then let's give them something to remember. Goliath stepped out of the hangar into the dust-strewn twilight of Bastion Red. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, the last Titan of Earth strode forth to wage war, not just for survival, but for legacy. The battlefield stretched out before Goliath like a graveyard waiting to be filled. Dunes of red dust curled beneath the Titan's feet as it strode forward. Every step a quake, every movement stirring the wind into howls that echoed like war drums. The remnants of ancient defense towers stood half buried in sand, their cannons long silent, their power cells drained by decades of abandonment. But now something ancient walked here again, and the ground remembered. Kai stared through the HUD, a living overlay of chaos and data. Threat markers pinged across his vision. Yellow for drones, red for walkers, purple for air support. They were coming from every direction. The Zenturi weren't just sending a squad, they were sending an army. A chorus of screeches rose from the dunes as the first wave crested the ridgeline. Spider-like drones, 6-limbed and armored in obsidian alloy. Plasma cores pulsed inside their chests. Some crawled, some leapt. All screamed in ultrasonic code as they charged. Kai didn't flinch. Activating railgun. Right arm, 3-round burst. The weapon spun to life. It didn't fire like a gun. It spoke in thunder. The first round lanced through 3 drones. The second clipped a 4th midair, shearing its torso in half. The third missed, but it didn't matter. The Titan's next step crushed 2 drones underfoot like beetles. A blade erupted from Goliath's left arm, subatomic edge shimmering, vibrating faster than sound. Kai moved on reflex, slicing horizontally. The weapon cleaved 5 drones into molten pieces, the edges of their armor curling like leaves in flame. Armor status nominal, kinetic shielding, 72% capacity. Advise rotating core if taking missile impact. A flash from above, Shrike-class fighters diving in formation. Their plasma cannons lit the air with streaks of neon green. Incoming airstrike. Acknowledged, Kai hissed, anti-air mode. Engage. Twin shoulder ports snapped open. Missile pods rotated upward. Goliath locked onto the lead Shrike and fired a burst of 8 projectiles. They tracked like hunting hawks, weaving through countermeasures before slamming into the fighters. Fire bloomed in the sky. Wreckage rained down. But the Zenturi were relentless. Now came the walkers. They emerged from the dust like monsters of ancient myth, 2-legged behemoths with mounted Gauss rifles and missile pods bristling from their backs. 10 meters tall, reinforced plating, coordinated movements. New targets identified, priority threat class. Let's dance, Kai whispered. He sprinted. Goliath surged forward faster than a machine that size had any right to move. Its footfalls cracked the ground, its joints groaning under the sudden acceleration. The lead walker opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the Titan. Goliath raised its forearm shield just in time. The blast scorched across it, sending shudders through the cockpit. Kai gritted his teeth, feeling the kinetic force ripple through his arms like he'd blocked the shot himself. Left blade full charge. The weapon hummed energy, coiling along its edge. Kai leapt, not jumped. Leapt! The Titan went airborne, crashing down atop the walker blade. First, the metal screamed as Goliath's weight and fury split the enemy clean in two. It collapsed like a crushed can, internal reactor imploding in a gout of green flame. Kai rolled forward, crushed another drone underfoot, and swung wildly to his left. Another drone bisected midair. He wasn't thinking anymore. He was feeling. He wasn't driving the Titan. He was the Titan. Every twitch of muscle mapped to steel, every breath timed with hydraulic rhythm, every heartbeat synced with the machine's core. Commander Voss to Titan, we have visual. You are clearing a path. Keep pushing. We're initiating orbital flank in 60 seconds. Kai responded through clenched teeth. Won't need that long. Above him, more fighters swarmed. Goliath's sensors tracked them all. 8 more targets acquired. Fire, Kai growled. Missiles launched again, spiraling skyward in arcs of vengeful fire. 8 explosions, 8 kills. The air burned, the ground trembled. And still the Zenturi kept coming. But so did Goliath. Kai's vision blurred from strain. His muscles spasmed, but he didn't stop. Couldn't, because Earth's last Titan was awake, and it wasn't done yet. The phantom named Prometheus. The dust hadn't even settled from Goliath's last strike when the tremor began. It wasn't the rumble of explosions or the shockwave from missile fire. This was deeper, slower, rhythmic. It rolled through the dunes like a heartbeat buried beneath the planet's crust. Kai's hands tightened around the controls. Unidentified seismic pattern. The AI intoned. Not Zenturi origin, not local tectonic anomaly. Source approaching. Then it came. From beyond the horizon, through the haze of burning wreckage and downed dropships, a silhouette began to take shape. At first, Kai thought it was another Zenturi walker, tall armored, spined with weapons. But then it grew taller and taller. The shape resolved itself limb by limb. Massive shoulders, clawed gauntlets, horned helmet. Titan class. The world seemed to hold its breath. Voss's voice crackled in his headset, suddenly urgent. Titan signature detected. It's not Zenturi, repeat, not Zenturi tech. We're reading Earth pattern architecture. Kai stared through the HUD. His blood ran cold. Because the thing that approached wore the crest of Earth's war core, twisted, corroded, but unmistakable. A broken world beneath crossed lightning bolts etched into the Titan's chest like a brand. It was Prometheus, the second Titan, the one that disappeared. The one that betrayed humanity during the fall. Prometheus was presumed destroyed, the AI said, voice uncharacteristically tight. Final log, Earth siege 2582. Status updated, active control, corrupted. Kai couldn't speak. This was the legend his instructors whispered about when they wanted to scare cadets into obedience. The Titan that turned on its own during Earth's last stand. Some said it fled into the void. Others that it was dismantled by its own crew. They were all wrong. Prometheus was alive, and it was walking straight toward him. Commander Kai muttered, voice shaking, "It's here." Then Prometheus charged. There was no hesitation, no broadcast, no warning. The corrupted Titan lunged, crossing hundreds of meters in seconds, moving with impossible speed for something so colossal. Its hands glowed with plasma energy, tendrils of light dancing along its frame like fire eating oxygen. The first blast hit Goliath in the chest. Kai barely had time to shield. Alarms screamed as energy sheared across the Titan's torso. The HUD lit up with damage readouts. Heat vented from cracks in the armor. Core shields compromised, right power arm offline, structural breach detected. Kai roared and shoved the controls forward. Goliath surged up just in time to meet Prometheus head-on. Metal slammed into metal. The shockwave knocked drones' debris and shattered buildings aside like paper. Sparks exploded from their shoulders as they grappled. Prometheus fought like a creature that remembered pain and relished it. It moved with fury, calculated, brutal. Not like a machine, but like a warrior who had turned every scar into a weapon. Every punch was meant to break bones, every step a statement. You cannot stop what you created. A clawed hand slashed across Goliath's left shoulder. Sparks flew. Steel peeled back. Kai screamed as the neural feedback flared, pain blooming across his ribs. Structural integrity. Degrading, the AI warned. Recommend immediate retreat. Voss's voice broke through the storm again. Kai, you need to pull back. That thing is beyond you. But he couldn't, because somewhere beneath the pain, beneath the horror, he could feel Goliath's hate rising to meet Prometheus. This wasn't just a fight. This was revenge. Kai slammed Goliath's shoulder into Prometheus's chest, knocking it back half a step, just enough to activate the energy blade on the left gauntlet. He slashed forward. A red line burned across Prometheus's chest plate. The corrupted Titan didn't flinch. It laughed, a horrible glitched metallic chuckle that echoed across all comms like a machine remembering how to be cruel. Kai gasped, "What the hell did they do to you?" Prometheus answered with a punch to Goliath's face, one that cracked the armor just above the right optic. Kai's vision blurred. His head slammed against the seat. Everything swam. He couldn't win this. Not like this. Not alone. Then the AI whispered soft and cold, "Unlocking emergency protocol. Earth's last breath." Kai blinked. "What the hell is that?" "You'll know it when you need it." Outside, Prometheus raised both hands, plasma surging between its palms, a strike that would split Goliath in half. Inside the cockpit, Kai grinned through bloody teeth. "Then let's die like legends." War of Gods. The sky above Bastion red twisted. The plasma surge in Prometheus's palms bloomed into a storm of raw annihilation. White-hot searing, screaming with electromagnetic fury, Kai didn't flinch. He couldn't. Goliath didn't dodge. It braced, initiating Earth's last breath. The AI declared authorization locked, warning core destabilization imminent. A deep mechanical growl rolled through the cockpit. Systems that hadn't activated in nearly a century began to light up red and gold runes sliding across the HUD like a language carved into time itself. Goliath's chest split open. Inside was not a weapon. It was a wound, a spherical core pulsing with a light darker than space and older than war spun awake. This wasn't fusion or plasma or anything Centauri had ever seen. It was something older, something illegal, even by Earth's final war standards. A miniature singularity, a memory bomb, developed in secret, deemed too dangerous. Locked away inside the last Titan as a final contingency, a weapon designed not to destroy matter but to destroy meaning. Prometheus hesitated, only for a heartbeat. But in a battle between gods, a heartbeat was everything. Goliath surged forward. The singularity core thrummed, folding gravity around itself. Space compressed, light bent, and a localized spike of mass density formed directly between the two Titans. Kai's breath hitched as the air screamed in his ears. The neural feedback hit like a freight train. Containment field holding, core reaction stable. Barely. Prometheus's plasma blast hit. But instead of burning Goliath apart, it collided with the singularity field. The energy bent inward, wrapping around the collapsing space-time like water down a drain. Kai roared, his fingers locked on the control grips as Goliath latched onto its enemy. They weren't fighting anymore. They were imploding. Prometheus shrieked, not in voice but in signal. Binary code screamed from its core, twisting open comm channels, flooding frequencies with corrupted Terran command lines. The corrupted Titan wasn't just angry, it was calling out. But Goliath didn't let go. Initiating core clamp, gravitational lock. Sustaining mass spike. Metal tore, sparks flew. Prometheus flailed its claws, carving deep into Goliath's shoulders. Blasts of plasma erupted blindly, slicing through towers, melting drones. A Centauri walker nearby was caught in the field and crumpled instantly, flattened into a disc of twisted alloy. Kai felt his consciousness flicker at the edges. His nose bled freely now. His bones screamed. But he held. Because Prometheus was cracking, first the chest plate, then the internal core. A fracture formed a deep horizontal split, like a rupture in a tectonic plate. Prometheus thrashed, trying to disengage, but the singularity field had locked on. It wasn't just mass. It was memory pulling every corrupted protocol, every stolen signal, every treasonous line of code into the core. Then came the sound, not a boom, not a crack. It was the sound of concepts shattering. Prometheus's chest imploded. Its arms shot outward, its frame twisted in on itself. A column of fire erupted from its spinal mount, and what remained of its corrupted code flared into the sky like dying lightning. Kai screamed not from pain, but from release, as Prometheus exploded backwards, severed in two, its core flaring wildly before crashing into the dunes like a dying star. Silence followed. Steam poured from Goliath's chest, its limbs sparked. The singularity core retracted, glowing red flickering as its energy bled away. The HUD dimmed. System warnings blinked like dying embers. Power core at 6%. The AI whispered, mobility critical. Neuralink unstable. Kai sagged in the seat, blood dripping from his chin, vision tunneling. He couldn't lift Goliath's arms anymore. But they were still standing. He laughed hoarse and cracked. Still here, he muttered. Bet no one saw that coming. But someone had. The Vanguard descended through the clouds, its hull scorched but weapons primed. Drop pods streaked toward the surface, carrying soldiers, medics, and artillery. Commander Voss stood at the observation window, eyes wide. He beat it, she breathed. He actually beat it. But there was no time to celebrate, because Prometheus's shattered frame twitched. Its severed arm lay half buried in sand sparks dancing across its joints. Its remaining half-core glowed faintly and then pulsed. A wideband signal burst forth. The HUD flared again. Incoming data burst. Not Centauri Earth-based. Mixed code detected. Kai's eyes fluttered open as the warning scrolled across the display. Multiple inbound signatures detected. Unknown class ETA 3 minutes. The battlefield fell still. Only the soft wind carrying ash and static remained. Then the sky cracked, not metaphorically. Literally, a jagged black rift tore across the upper atmosphere of Bastion Red like a blade had slit reality itself. No stars shone through. No light. Just pure hollow void. From that wound in space, something else began to emerge. And Earth's last titan stirred again, not from rage this time, but from instinct. Truth beneath red sand. The sky above Bastion Red was broken. The rift hung like a scar across the firmament. Dark, jagged, unnatural. Its edges rippled like torn skin, and from it came no light, no heat, no sound, just absence. A silence so complete it made the battlefield feel like a forgotten dream. Commander Voss stood on the surface, now boots buried in ash and sand. Her dropship had landed minutes after the clash of titans, but nothing had prepared her for this. She stared up, eyes narrowed, body still trembling from the echoes of what she just witnessed. The resurrection of Goliath, the fall of Prometheus, the singularity that had swallowed a legend. And now, the sky itself was screaming in silence. Commander Tech officer's voice crackled over the comms, barely hiding the panic. We've intercepted the signal from the Prometheus core. It's broadcasting wideband, but it's not a distress call. Then what is it? She asked quietly. A beacon. On the battlefield, Goliath stood motionless. Its frame glowed faintly like a forge, cooling after the last strike of the hammer, armor cracked, limbs dented, power systems hanging on by threads. Inside, Kai Morn was barely conscious. The cockpit was filled with the stench of burnt metal and blood. His fingers twitched weakly on the controls. The HUD flickered. Static danced across every display. And then, a voice, not the AI, not his own thoughts, something older, female, clear, sharp, ancient. He who holds the last titan holds the last war. Kai flinched. Who are you? I am what remains of Earth's vengeance, and I am not done. The cockpit glowed. Lines of code, deep crimson and golden, cascaded across the screens, written in a language long lost to modern systems, pre-collapse code. Systems long thought purged. A flood of power surged through Goliath. Reactor nodes flickered. Cracked limbs twitched. The Titan moved. Warning core activity. Spiking internal protocols breached the AI. Whispered as if awed. We are no longer alone. Outside soldiers scrambled for cover. Engineers stared wide-eyed as Goliath's plates shimmered light, crawling like veins beneath its skin. Deep in its spine, a second reactor spun up, one not listed on any schematic. One older than even the Titan itself. Inside, Kai forced himself upright. His body screamed, his thoughts burned, but he stared at the new displays unfolding before him. What is this? The architect's voice, serene, cold, answered. A vault. For what? For minds, the last war architects. The ones who designed us, who built the Titans. Their memories, their rage, their code. We were never just machines. Kai's throat tightened, and Prometheus was trying to upload us, to share us, to sell us. That was the corruption. Not a virus, not alien interference. It was theft, a betrayal of memory. Prometheus had found something out in the dark. Something that wanted the Titans not for war, but for harvesting. You're saying they're coming for what's inside you. Yes, and they have found us. A massive rumble shattered the moment. The ground cracked. From the rift above they emerged. Shapes not. Ships not in any recognizable sense. They floated silently like blades made of obsidian and shadow. No propulsion, no weapons, no heat. But the air bent around them. Voss's voice cut in breathless. That isn't a Centauri jump gate. We don't know what the hell that is. Goliath turned his gaze skyward. And Kai knew these weren't invaders. They were collectors. The old legends, the ones that came at the end, not to conquer, but to cleanse, to strip, to erase, to take whatever the last war left behind. The voice in his mind returned. They've heard the Titan wake up. They've been waiting. And now they were here, not for Earth, not for Bastion Red, but for Goliath's core, for the vault inside, for the truth buried beneath red sand. Riftborn. They didn't descend. They arrived as if reality itself had invited them in. 3 obsidian shapes floated silently in triangular formation above Bastion. Red, suspended without motion, without explanation. No engines, no emissions. Just presence, impossible and immutable. The air beneath them shimmered. Gravity warped subtly. Dust rose from the ground in gentle spirals, pulled upward by something unseen. From within the cockpit of Goliath, Kai felt it in his chest, not just pressure, but weight, not physical, existential, as though the universe itself leaned in to observe. And then they sang, a deep, bone-shaking hum, subsonic beneath hearing. It wasn't a sound meant for ears, but for marrow. Kai's teeth ached. His lungs trembled. Harmonic compression, signal, the AI muttered. They're broadcasting something to everything. Suddenly, warning text flashed across the HUD faster than Kai could read. His vision blurred, the neural interface stuttering under the strain. Then, a line of code carved in burning white. Internal signal detected, entity class, ancient core, origin, humanity. Kai blinked. What the hell does that mean? The AI hesitated, then responded slower than usual, like each word had to fight through centuries of silence. They heard the Titan wake up. They've been waiting. The collectors hovered, still motionless. But they weren't idle. From the bottom of the central structure, it emerged. Not a drone, not a ship, a thing. It floated downward without effort. A shape made of flowing black oil, smooth and limbless, shifting constantly. Symbols formed and dissolved across its skin. No eyes, no face, no definition. Just intent. The AI whispered almost reverently. Collector class harvester. The thing paused midair, then pulsed once. A beam of dark red light lanced from its core toward Goliath. Kai screamed, not in fear, in rage. He slammed his arms up on instinct. Goliath's battered limbs moved in sync, raising both arms across its chest just as the beam struck. The impact hit like a meteor. The shield plates cracked. Warning lights flared red. The cockpit shook violently as sparks burst from ruptured conduits. But Goliath held shield matrix integrity at 19%, the AI warned. Kai coughed, blood spraying across the inside of his helmet. But he was still here, and Goliath was still standing. You're not taking anything from Earth again, he shouted into the void. Then he moved. The Titan didn't walk. It charged. Goliath thundered forward, broken, but burning toward the floating thing that called itself a god. Every footfall sent sand and ash skyward. The harvester prepared another blast. Too late. Goliath leapt. 40 meters of steel fury and memory slammed into the floating enemy midair. The sky cracked, and the real war, Earth's last war, had finally begun. The war memory. The impact was cataclysmic. Goliath struck the collector midair like a comet forged in wrath. Metal and void clashed, shockwaves rippled outward, flattening broken towers and scattering sand like smoke. The harvester reeled, its body flickering, glitching, trying to reform. It shrieked not in sound, but in code, a scream made of data. Kai didn't let up. He brought the Titan's fist down again and again, each blow sending shock pulses through the cockpit. Goliath's arm blade deployed mid-motion, a subatomic edge slicing clean through the collector's torso. Black liquid code bled from the wound, flickering symbols collapsing into ash. Entity integrity destabilizing, the AI confirmed. But it wasn't alone. Two more harvesters descended from the knife ships above, trailed by a swarm of drones. Glass-like shards that move like a school of fish spiraling in perfect sync. They're a network, Kai muttered. A hive. The harvester beneath him collapsed into dust. Goliath landed hard, its knees buckling, servos shrieking in protest. Kai's vision swam. Pain lanced through his spine. Spinal cannons online, the AI announced calmly. Kai didn't hesitate. Two plasma arcs burst from Goliath's back, carving glowing lines through the sky. Entire squadrons of drones evaporated midair, vaporized before they could react. Targets neutralized, 41. Still they came. One collector soared toward Goliath with impossible speed. Kai met it head-on, impaling it through the core with Goliath's arm blade. Black data spilled in long strands, flickering with forgotten languages. Then something changed. The battlefield paused, even the wind slowed. The rift above began to twist. It was no longer just a portal. It was becoming a mouth. Kai gasped, what are they doing? They're bringing in the Prime, the AI answered, voice suddenly reverent. Their creator, their weapon of last resort. Kai stared at the darkening sky. The rift cracked wider, tearing open like reverse glass. And inside, nothing. Not emptiness, not void. A presence, a mind so vast, so ancient, that even space recoiled around it. Kai's neural link trembled. His vision dimmed. He heard voices, Earth voices, ghosts of the past. And then one final phrase echoed in the cockpit, not from the AI, but from the architect. If this is our last fight, then let's make it a legend. Goliath roared, not through speakers, through history. Its systems ignited in golden light, runes cascading across its hull. The vault inside opened not to launch a weapon, but to broadcast a memory. A code, Earth's final message. Generals, engineers, soldiers, Voices long dead filled the battlefield with a song of steel and defiance, tactical patterns wove into music, language into command, rage into rhythm. And for one brief moment, humanity didn't just fight back, it remembered. Echoes of Earth. Goliath charged, not with grace but with purpose, fury, and memory. Every step cracked the battlefield. Every movement shook the sky. Around it, the Collector swarmed Black Mirror, Shard drones, and Voidborn harvesters, closing in a living network of deletion. But the Titan didn't stop. Because Earth didn't run, Kai's vision blurred with every pulse of the neural link. But he held on. His hands gripped the controls like lifelines. His thoughts bled into the machine. Pain became motion. Fear became fire. The first Collector intercepted sleek, silent, merciless Goliath. Met it mid-stride, spinning and activating the spinal cannons. Twin arcs of plasma burst from its back, vaporizing the enemy in midair. Another shrieked toward him. Goliath's blade arms snapped into place. One clean swing, and the enemy folded like paper, its digital scream trailing into the ash. Still more came. They're stalling, Kai growled. Confirmed, the AI replied. Prime is adapting. Above them, the sky broke again. Prime stepped fully into reality, if it could be called that. It had no shape, only the illusion of one. A lattice of geometry arms that shifted with each second, faces that flickered like old photographs. A god of data born not to rule but to harvest, to erase. It's rewriting space, Kai whispered. It's rewriting us. The rift pulsed again, and then Prime fired. A lance of compressed existence. Not plasma, not matter, but time itself twisted into a spear, lanced toward Goliath. The world bent in its wake. Drones caught in the path vanished. Towers unmade. Sound inverted. Goliath didn't dodge. It absorbed. The impact shattered the Titan's outer plating. Kai screamed as the cockpit flared, systems overloading. Armor melted, shields collapsed. Warning, system failure. Core instability. Neural link fracturing. But Goliath kept moving. Kai kept moving. Activate the third reactor, he whispered, voice shaking. Protocol forbidden. Not anymore. The AI paused. Then for the first time it sounded human. Acknowledged. Deep within Goliath's spine something ancient stirred. The singularity lance. Yang Lance. A weapon never fired in Earth's war, a theory made real, a filament of matter compressed beyond light, accelerated past physics, built to pierce through gods. The HUD locked onto prime reality bent, Kai whispered through clenched teeth. Let's see if you can bleed. Goliath lunged, the lance deployed, one golden line, silent perfect, pierced through Prime's chest, not a wound. A rewrite. Prime froze. Its body began to fracture, not explode, fracture, like a concept being rewritten. A god being told no. Across the sky, the rift shuddered. Collector ships collapsed, mirror drones dropped, harvester signals cut out mid-scream. The war ended not with fire, but with memory and silence. Goliath dropped to one knee, smoke rising from its joints. Power levels critical, lights flickering. Inside, Kai slumped in the seat, armor cracked, body broken but alive. Commander Voss's voice crackled over open comms, barely audible. We saw it. The whole fleet saw it. That wasn't just a battle. No, Kai said softly, bloodied lips curling into a tired grin. That was a message. Above them, the rift began to seal, not in defeat, but in fear, because Earth had spoken, and it had spoken through its last Titan. As the stars returned above Bastion, red and silence fell once more, only one thing remained certain. Humanity would never be forgotten, because now the galaxy remembered why they feared us.